Hey Chiefs Kingdom, what's up, red and gold family? Buckle up, because today we've got a serious conversation about something that cost the Kansas City Chiefs in 2025. And trust me, it's not being ignored anymore. There's a shift happening behind the scenes, and it could completely reshape this defense heading into 2026. Now let me hit you with a teaser right off the bat. What if I told you the Chiefs themselves are admitting they messed up last season? Yeah, you heard that right. And not just a small mistake. We're talking about a decision that weakened the entire defensive line and exposed cracks that teams took advantage of all year long. So stick with me because we're breaking down exactly what went wrong, what Veach is planning to fix, and why this next NFL draft could define whether the Kansas City Chiefs bounce back strong or face the same nightmare all over again. The truth is, the defensive line in 2025 simply didn't live up to expectations. The front office believed in development, believed in internal growth, and believed certain players would take that next leap. But in the NFL, belief without results? That's a dangerous gamble. Instead of aggressively reinforcing the trenches, the Chiefs leaned into potential. They expected young players to rise, to dominate, to fill critical roles. And that didn't happen consistently enough. The result? A defensive unit that lacked depth, consistency, and pressure when it mattered most. And let's be real for a second, when your defensive line struggles, everything else starts to fall apart. Linebackers get exposed, the secondary has to hold longer, and suddenly even elite talent looks vulnerable. It's a domino effect, and we saw it unfold in real time. Now here's where things get interesting. Veach isn't hiding from it. In fact, he came out and basically admitted the Chiefs need to do better, and that's a big deal. This isn't speculation, this is straight from the top. He made it clear that the team underestimated certain players while also failing to properly address aging positions. That combination? It's a recipe for exactly what happened in 2025. A defense that just couldn't keep up at key moments. And Chiefs fans, you know this feeling. Watching games where the pressure just wasn't there. Where quarterbacks had too much time, where crucial stops didn't happen. That frustration? The front office felt it too. Let's talk about one of the biggest head-scratchers from last season. The defensive interior decisions. Because honestly, they didn't make sense even at the time. The Chiefs let Derek Nady walk in free agency. Then they released Mike Pennell. 2 experienced players gone. Only to bring them back later. One via trade, the other mid-season. That's not strategy, that's scrambling. And when you're scrambling in the NFL, it usually means you miscalculated. Big time. Instead of stability, the Chiefs created uncertainty in one of the most important areas of the defense. Fast forward to now, and the situation hasn't exactly gotten easier. In fact, it might be even more complicated heading into 2026. Derek Nady is gone again. Jerry Tillery? Also gone. Mike Pennell is still floating in free agency. That's a lot of turnover in a position group that desperately needed consistency. And then you add in Omar Normanlott coming off an ACL injury. Suddenly, the depth chart starts looking very thin. That's not where you want to be if you're trying to rebuild a dominant defensive front. Now, yes, the Chiefs did bring in Khyiris Tonga, and that's a solid move. He adds athleticism and some pass rush upside from the nose position. But let's not sugarcoat it. One addition isn't enough. Not when you've lost multiple contributors and are dealing with injury uncertainty. Even Veach said it himself, there's still a few players short. That tells you everything you need to know about how urgent this situation really is. And here's where the mindset shift becomes crystal clear. In 2025, the Chiefs relied heavily on development. Guys like Zach Pickens and Marcus Harris were expected to step up and fill the gap. But in 2026, that approach is changing. Veach doesn't want to leave things up to chance anymore. He wants competition. He wants depth. He wants players who can come in and contribute immediately, not just maybe develop down the line. And honestly, that's exactly what this team needs right now. Not projects, production. But wait, it's not just the interior that needs help. The edge rusher position is also flashing warning signs. Felix Anudike-Uzomah is coming off a season-ending injury. Mike Dana? Gone. Charles Omenihu? Also out of the picture. That's a lot of lost presence on the edge. And here's the kicker. The Chiefs didn't sign a single edge rusher in free agency. That's either risky, or it means they're planning something big in the draft. And based on what Veach said, it's definitely the second option. He mentioned that the team has evaluated a ton of defensive ends, like nearly every viable option in this draft class. That tells you they're preparing for multiple scenarios. Whether it's a top pick or a later steal, they want options. And they want impact players. And let's talk strategy for a second. Veach hinted that the grades between players are very close this year. That opens the door for flexibility. Maybe they grab someone early. Maybe they double-dip later. But one thing is clear, they're not ignoring this position anymore. And Chiefs Kingdom, this is where things get exciting. Because if the Chiefs nail this draft, if they truly fix the defensive line, this defense could go from a weakness to a strength again. And when that happens, everything changes. Chris Jones becomes even more dangerous with help around him. The linebackers get cleaner looks. The secondary gets more support. There's a ripple effect that can elevate the entire team. And let's be honest, this team doesn't need a complete rebuild. They just need to fix the right pieces. The offense is still explosive. The coaching is still elite. The foundation is still championship level. But the trenches? That's where this next chapter will be written. So now I want to hear from you, Chiefs Kingdom. Do you think the Kansas City Chiefs can fix the defensive line in this draft? Should they go all in on the trenches, or balance it with other needs? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. Let's get that debate going. And if you're loving this kind of breakdown, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with every Chiefs fan you know. Because the road to redemption in 2026 starts right here, and we're covering every step of it together. Fire, and here's the part that should fire you up even more, Chiefs Kingdom. This isn't just about fixing mistakes. This is about sending a message to the entire NFL that the Kansas City Chiefs are not staying down after one flawed season. Because think about it, how often do we see elite teams recognize a weakness this clearly and actually attack it head-on? That's what separates contenders from dynasties. And right now, Brett Veach is acting like a man who knows the window is still wide open. This isn't panic mode. This is calculated aggression. It's the kind of mindset that built champions in the first place. Now let's imagine the possibilities for a second. Picture the Chiefs coming out of the 2026 NFL draft with not just one, but 2 or even 3 defensive linemen ready to contribute. Suddenly, that thin depth chart turns into a competitive war zone. Every snap is earned. Every rep matters. And that's exactly how you build a dominant defensive front. Because when players are pushed, when they're challenged every single day, the level of play rises across the board. That's the culture the Chiefs are trying to rebuild in the trenches. And don't overlook how important that is for a long season. Injuries happen. Slumps happen. But depth? Depth keeps you alive in December and dangerous in January. That's something the Chiefs didn't have enough of in 2025, and it showed when it mattered most. Now let's talk about Chris Jones for a moment. Because everything happening right now, it directly impacts him. When Jones has support, when offenses can't double-team him every single play, he becomes an absolute nightmare. We've seen it before. We know what he can do when the pressure is shared. But when he's isolated, when he's the only real threat, offensive lines adjust and even a superstar gets neutralized more often than you'd like. So this draft is not just about adding names. It's about unlocking the full potential of your best defensive player. And that should excite every single fan watching this right now. But here's a question you've got to ask yourself. Do the Chiefs go safe or do they swing big? Do they pick high-floor players who can contribute immediately? Or do they take a gamble on elite upside guys who could become game-changers? Because based on what we're hearing, the grades are tight. The margins are small. One decision could change everything. And you already know Chiefs Kingdom will be watching every single pick like it's the Super Bowl. Another thing that stands out here is how intentional the scouting process has been. Veach mentioned they've brought in a huge number of defensive end prospects. That's not random. That's preparation at the highest level. They're doing their homework, stacking their board, making sure that no matter how the draft unfolds, they're ready to capitalize. Because let's be honest, the draft never goes exactly how you expect. Players fall. Teams reach. Chaos happens. But the best organizations? They adapt. And that's exactly what the Kansas City Chiefs are positioning themselves to do. And here's something that might be flying under the radar. This entire situation could actually make the team stronger than it was before. Yeah, you heard that right. Sometimes, failure forces evolution. Sometimes, a bad season in one area becomes the reason you build something even better the next year. If the Chiefs had just been okay on the defensive line in 2025, maybe they don't feel this urgency. Maybe they don't go all in. But now they have to. And that urgency could turn into dominance. So as we head into the draft, keep your eyes locked on those trenches. Watch how early they address it. Watch if they double down. Watch the names they target. Because that's where the real story of the 2026 Kansas City Chiefs begins. And let me tell you something, Chiefs Kingdom. If they get this right, the rest of the league better be ready. Because a balanced, deep, and aggressive defensive line combined with this offense, that's a championship formula. That's scary. That's Kansas City Chiefs football at its best. So now I'm throwing it back to you one more time. Who do you want the Chiefs to draft? Defensive tackle? Edge rusher? Both? Drop your predictions, your dream picks, and your hot takes in the comments. I'm reading everything. And if you don't want to miss any updates, rumors, or breaking noticias dos Kansas City Chiefs news, make sure you're subscribed right now. Leave a like, share this video with your crew, and let's keep building the strongest Chiefs Kingdom on YouTube. Because this season is personal, and the comeback story is just getting started. Fire.